brutal crime, harsh punishment, isolation, despair. In life, prison can be a house of horrors, but do these terrible scenes persist after death? In this episode, we're entering haunted prisons. Welcome to Phantom Astronaut's Midnight Mystery School, where we explore the eerie, the unexplained, and the haunted echoes of history. Tonight, we're venturing behind the walls of some of the most notorious prisons in the world, places that house the worst of humanity, where suffering and despair left their mark. But it isn't just history that lingers in these old cells. These prisons have become the settings for terrifying tales of the supernatural. The question is, are these stories just products of fear and imagination? Or are these prisons truly haunted? Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep this Midnight Mystery School alive, allowing us to continue our exploration of the unknown. Be sure to check the links in the description for more ways to support the channel. Now, if you're ready, let's step inside the iron gates and explore the chilling world of haunted prisons. Prisons are places of confinement, punishment, and often death. They are filled with the memories of those who lived out their final days behind bars, some innocent, others guilty of unspeakable crimes. But in these dark corners of human history, something more seems to linger. Over the centuries, prisons have become the settings for countless supernatural stories, tales of restless spirits, lingering shadows, and unexplainable occurrences that chill even the most skeptical visitors. Why are so many prisons said to be haunted? Perhaps it's the intense emotions these places have absorbed, the despair, fear, anger, and pain of those who once called them home. Or perhaps the violent ends met by many prisoners have left a residue, a kind of energy that refuses to fade with time. Whatever the reason, these haunted prisons continue to capture our imaginations, feeding the belief that some spirits remain trapped within their walls. Let's explore 5 of the most infamous haunted prisons, where the supernatural seems to persist long after the last prisoner left. The idea of haunted prisons isn't new. For centuries, prisons have been feared, not just for the living inmates they held, but for the spirits they were believed to trap. In medieval Europe, dungeons were often the setting for gruesome executions, torture, and endless suffering, creating the perfect breeding ground for ghost stories. As prison systems evolved, the belief in hauntings only grew stronger. Many modern prisons built in the 19th and 20th centuries have since been abandoned, their walls now standing as eerie relics of the past. And in their silence, the stories of ghosts, apparitions, and strange occurrences have grown louder. But why do these stories persist in the modern era? One reason may be that prisons are places where the boundary between life and death is often crossed. Executions, suicides, and violent deaths have left their mark on these buildings, leading many to believe that the souls of the dead cannot rest. Moreover, the psychological toll of imprisonment, loneliness, madness, and despair seems to hang in the air long after the prisoners are gone. Across the world, there are prisons where stories of ghostly encounters have persisted for decades. Let's take a closer look at 5 of the most famous haunted prisons and the real-life supernatural events that have been reported within their walls. Eastern State Penitentiary is one of the most infamous haunted locations in the United States. Built in 1829, This massive Gothic-style prison was designed to house inmates in solitary confinement, a form of punishment that was believed to lead to repentance. But instead of reform, the isolation drove many prisoners to madness, and the conditions inside the prison were often brutal. Today, Eastern State is a crumbling ruin, and it's considered one of the most haunted places in the world. Visitors have reported hearing disembodied voices, footsteps, and the clanging of cell doors. Some have seen shadowy figures darting through the hallways, or felt cold hands touching them in the dark. One of the most chilling stories involves Al Capone, who was imprisoned at Eastern State. During his time there, Capone claimed to be haunted by the ghost of James Clark, one of the men murdered in the St. Valentine's Day massacre. According to Capone, Clark's spirit would appear in his cell, tormenting him night after night. Alcatraz, San Francisco, California. Known as The Rock, Alcatraz is one of the most notorious prisons in American history. It housed some of the country's most dangerous criminals, including Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. The prison, located on a small island off the coast of San Francisco, was renowned for its harsh conditions and the sense of hopelessness that pervaded the inmates' lives. Since its closure in 1963, Alcatraz has become a popular tourist destination and a hotspot for ghost sightings. Visitors and park rangers have reported hearing phantom screams, clanging cell doors, and the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. One of the most famous haunted areas is Cell Block D, where prisoners who misbehaved were kept in solitary confinement. Known as the Hole, these cells are said to be filled with a chilling energy. Some who have spent time in the dark cells claim to have felt a presence standing behind them, or to have seen glowing eyes staring out from the darkness. Old Charleston Jail, Charleston, South Carolina. The Old Charleston Jail operated from 1802 until 1939 and housed some of the most infamous criminals of its time. One of its most notorious inmates was Lavinia Fisher, who was often called America's first female serial killer. Lavinia and her husband, John, were accused of robbing and murdering travelers at their inn. Lavinia was executed at the jail, but her spirit is said to remain behind. The jail is now a popular destination for ghost hunters, and many visitors have reported terrifying encounters with Lavinia's ghost. Some have heard her voice whispering in their ears, or seen her apparition wandering the halls in a white dress. Others claim to have been scratched or pushed by unseen hands. In addition to Lavinia, the spirits of former inmates and guards are said to roam the jail, and the building itself is said to be filled with an overwhelming sense of dread. Kilmainham Gaol, Dublin, Ireland. Kilmainham Jail has a dark and bloody history. Built in 1796, the prison played a central role in Irish political history, housing many of the leaders of Ireland's rebellions. Some of the most famous inmates were executed within its walls, and their deaths have left a haunting mark on the prison. Today, visitors and staff have reported hearing ghostly footsteps, doors slamming shut on their own, and strange lights appearing in the cells. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of Joseph Plunkett. His ghost is said to appear in the chapel where he married his fiancée just hours before his execution. Prison Shrewsbury was in operation from 1793 to 2013, and it has gained a reputation as one of England's most haunted prisons. During its history, the prison saw many executions, and some believe that the spirits of those who were hanged have never left. Among the reported hauntings are sightings of shadowy figures, disembodied whispers, and the sound of footsteps in empty corridors. One of the most famous spirits said to haunt the prison is that of a woman named Elizabeth Lancaster, who was executed for poisoning her husband. Her ghost is said to wander the prison, searching for redemption. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site claim to have captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, and some have reported feeling sudden cold spots or being touched by invisible hands. Haunted prisons continue to be a popular subject in modern media. From ghost hunting shows that venture into the dark corners of abandoned penitentiaries, to documentaries exploring the history of these haunted sites, the idea of prisons as places of supernatural activity persists. But why do these stories continue to captivate us? Perhaps it's because prisons are places where intense human emotions were experienced. Fear, anger, despair, and even madness. These emotions, combined with the violent and tragic ends many prisoners met, create the perfect environment for tales of ghosts and hauntings. There's also the physical isolation of these buildings, often remote, decaying, and abandoned, which makes them even more unsettling. Whether in movies, books, or reality TV, the haunted prison narrative taps into our primal fear of being trapped and forgotten. But are these haunted prison stories just the result of our imaginations, shaped by the grim history of these institutions? Or could there be something more, something supernatural, that lingers behind the bars? The stories of haunted prisons have persisted for centuries, feeding our fascination with the unknown. But are these stories just a reflection of the suffering and despair that once filled these institutions? Or could there be something more at work, something beyond our understanding? Skeptics argue that many of the ghostly encounters in these prisons can be explained by natural causes: creaking old buildings, drafts, and the power of suggestion. But for those who have experienced the unexplained firsthand, the haunted prisons feel all too real. Visitors, guards, and paranormal investigators continue to report sightings, strange sounds, and feelings of being watched. So, what do you believe? Are these haunted prisons merely relics of a dark past? Or are they truly inhabited by spirits, trapped between life and death? The truth, as always, may lie somewhere in the shadows. Thank you for joining us tonight at Phantom Astronaut's Midnight Mystery School. If these stories of haunted prisons have made you question what might still linger behind the bars, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep this Midnight Mystery School alive, allowing us to continue our exploration of the strange and the supernatural. For more ways to support the channel, check the links in the description below. I'm Phantom Astronaut, and this has been Midnight Mystery School. And I will see you out there.